Oh, hello. Welcome to the 2013 Hundie Challenge. Today we're going to be talking about mainstream media by Upton Sinclair. Dee doo dee doo doo dee doo 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 dee doo dee doo doo dee doo dee doo doo dee doo 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 dee doo dee doo doo. You know, if you've watched more than one of these videos, I've made a little over 50 of them now. Then you know I always do the little sting in the beginning where I joke and I get the name of the book and the name of the author wrong. And this time, I really did get the name of the author wrong when I picked this up. I thought this was Upton Sinclair, the guy that wrote The Jungle. And when I got this book and I was looking at the top 100 list by the Modern Library. It's like, why the fuck is this book that I never heard of on here, but The Jungle is not? Like, that's, my main goal in doing this whole process is to try and get up on, literature that I feel like I'm lacking on. Now, I'll talk at the end of the year about, my feelings about that. Maybe I'll talk a little bit during the course of the year. Obviously, there are big problems with this list, but, it's something to go off of. Anyway, that's my way of saying that this book was not what I thought it was going to be. It was another audiobook. It was, I think, the first one I've heard that was narrated by a woman. She was pretty good. I don't remember her name. Oh, Barbara Caruso. I don't know her, but she was pretty good, but this book was not so great. It wasn't terrible. It was just one of those things that to have going on in my car, going to work every day for, like 4 weeks or however long it's been. It was just a little exhausting. Hearing this woman saying the same things over and over and over again. I don't want to make it out like it's terrible. It's not the worst book I've ever ingested, heard, read, whatever you want to call it. It's not terrible. It's just like, it was kind of just like beating a dead horse is the thing. So if I could boil down Main Street into just a few paragraphs, maybe just a minute or two, you know how loquacious I am. I might go on. Who knows how long. Basically, this, and again, keep in mind, I thought this was Upton Sinclair. I'm not sure who Sinclair Lewis is, but I'm guessing he's also a socialist. What this book was about was kind of why we can never have real progress in America, why we're stuck with these kind of, old, quaint, old-timey ways, and, the prudishness and the back-lookingness and all this sort of thing, and, why socialism can't take root, and, why we can't really go on as a society. And what it boils down to, in Lewis's interpretation, is the stultification, kind of the petrification of Main Street. Now, we use Main Street today to mean basically the same thing that he meant here. He's talking specifically about this fictional town of Gopher Prairie, but he's using it as a stand-in for every small town and, every main street. And there are even times he kind of stays away from this. This is a very, 19th century, early 20th century, conceit to, broadly say things about the whole state of the universe that we don't really see in books anymore. Now, every once in a while, he would go into that and be like, and just like every main street across the country, this was also going on. He kind of stayed away from that. He kind of mostly used Gopher Prairie as a synecdoche, a metaphor. So what happens is this woman, Carol, I can't remember her maiden name, but she marries a small-town doctor named Kendicott. So for 99% of the book, her name is Carol Kendicott. Now, Carol comes from, I think, St. Paul or somewhere, not like a super big city, but she kind of comes from the city. And as a kid, she had this dream that someday she would go into a small town and fix it up and make it like Paris. Like, she felt that all she had to do was really kind of show up in the small town, and she alone could fix it just with the power of her goodness and her strength of character and her knowledge from the city. So this country doctor tells her about Gopher Prairie, and they're kind of attracted to each other, and he knows she wants to, make a project of a small town, so she marries him and they move out there. And then what happens for the whole rest of the book is just like this takedown, just like piece by piece by piece of ultimately saying like why Carol can't affect any change in Main Street America. And so it starts out that she tries to, just take the problem head on. First she takes the problem head on, and of course she runs into, nobody's really interested, and then she'll try these like backdoor routes. She'll be like every chapter she's trying something different. Like she'll be like, oh, let me try and join one of these women's groups, and then I'll use the women's group to affect change. And then she'll find out that all of her good ideas, she just always is constantly getting stonewalled. She's just always constantly getting cock-blocked. If she can get like one person on board with her, then the next person she'll talk to will be like, oh, well, that old such and such doesn't know what he's talking about. So as the book goes along, she's just slowly ground down by Main Street from all of her, great big ideas of turning Gopher Prairie into a new Paris. And she comes to the end of the book, and she's just another part of Main Street. And she kind of, the stinger, the last line, the really sad part is she's like, I may not have fought the good, I think she said, I may not have fought the good fight, but you can't say I didn't keep the faith. I certainly kept the faith. And so it was kind of, I don't, it's not particularly offensive to me. I like to think of myself as open-minded, but I'm certain that in the 30s, and even to a lot of people today, this kind of taking down of the American mythos, I guess you would say, like the apple pies cooling on the windowsill, and I think that taking that down, a lot of people will take offense to that. So, well, of course she was wrong for trying to change Gopher Prairie, and like any great satire, the fault is not it's not entirely the system that is at fault. It's also, Carol is kind of has a high opinion of herself, and she's kind of haughty, and you almost feel like she doesn't have any real grit when it comes down to it. And a lot of people say this to her over and over. They're like, you always talk about changing shit, but you never do a damn thing. And somebody even at one point is like, we've been working the whole time you've been here. We didn't tell you we were working on building a new school because we knew you'd get your dick beaters in it and screw it up. So we're affecting real change in our own way, in our own methodical way, while all you do is talk about change. So it's kind of a cutting satire. It was a little long-winded, a little long in the tooth for my taste. Like, after a while, I was like, I get it. The fucking institutions of the small town are grinding her down. She's, she doesn't like fishing, so they're not after a while, hearing the same thing over and over again got a little bit exhausting. Not a terrible book. Certainly not The Jungle, as I thought initially was going to be. But as a satire, and also, this is one of those books where you read it, or, listen to it, whatever, and you think, boy, not a whole lot of shit has changed. Because a lot of the same stuff they were talking about back then, about, unions and the war, and you're not patriotic if you don't do this, and, a lot of the same kind of culture wars were evident even back in the 30s. So thanks for tuning in. Next time we will be talking about An Appointment in Samara by John O'Hara.